Good morning, Jamie. Hello, everyone.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody out there in listening land. I know we've got a lot of great topics today. One of the things that we'll be going through is a couple of different model releases. Google released Veo 3.1, which is their video generation, as well as Anthropic launched their Claude Haiku 4.5. So we'll get into some of the specifics around those two.
Yeah, and we will talk about the OpenAI and the Broadcom partnership to develop and deploy 10 gigawatts of AI accelerators and the chips. We'll also talk about Microsoft's own launch of the image model, MAI-Image-1. And then, Salesforce also announced the Agentforce 360. That and more. Stay tuned for a quick introduction. Greetings. Welcome to the AI Files podcast. If you're looking to stay up to date on the AI, this is the podcast for you. I'm Shadab Hussain. I'm the director of AI at Microsoft, and I'm your co host.
Hello, everybody. Jamie Basilico, as you know already. I'm the other co-host here for the AI Files. My day job is a data and AI technical specialist and architect. And as a reminder, please note this is not an official Microsoft channel, so the views and opinions expressed by myself and Shadab are our own and do not represent the views of Microsoft.
OpenAI and Broadcom actually has announced this strategic collaboration. Is not something new. They have been indicating about this that they have been working together, but this more details have come out now that OpenAI and Broadcom will co-develop systems that include accelerators and Ethernet solutions from Broadcom for scaling up and scaling out. OpenAI will develop its own GPUs with Broadcom, and the chipmaker Broadcom is going to provide the Ethernet and the other connectivity for OpenAI's facilities and those run by third parties. Broadcom will actually deploy racks of AI accelerator and network systems targeted to start in second half of 2026, not very far, and it will complete by end of 2029. OpenAI, basically, this deal cover deployment through 2029, and it allows OpenAI to embed frontier model insights into hardware, reducing cost and third-party chip dependence. Because OpenAI has actually learned a lot of lessons, working with the frontier models. So they want to take that learning and build that right into the chips. Now, of course, that's one angle because they feel that it will make it actually more efficient and cost effective. But the other angle is also, of course, they want to reduce the dependence on the other chips. So doing this co-development allows them. Now, it doesn't mean that they're completely pivoting away from using other chips like NVIDIA's, but they have been forging the deals with nvidia or with amd, and this is actually another one. So from their point of view, like if you ask OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, he believes that there is a demand with current AI models to saturate 30 gigawatts of capacity. So it's like build baby build. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep building because you need a lot of demand.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that come to mind. One is obviously becoming more independent from a chip perspective. Two, how to make um, the compute capacity more efficient based upon leveraging the known capabilities of those hardware chips. And then the third thing that comes to mind is Back to the Future. Every time I hear the word, gigawatt, I've got, Doc Brown in my head trying to hook up the DeLorean. But that being said, it's really all about how do you become more efficient. And when we think about their dependencies, they being OpenAI, how do they become less dependent on the NVIDIAs of the world? And, there was just a deal struck also with AMD. So, there's these things that really relates to efficiency, compute gains, and what it means from a grid as it relates to electricity. So all those things kind of come together, and it's not surprising these partnerships and the things that OpenAI is doing. It will help them in their bottom line in terms of being able to put out new capabilities because they need that compute power, but then also it helps their financials at the end of the day if they're able to control more of that process to get that hardware and deploy it.
True. And Jamie, the only thing I will say additionally is I am continue to be amazed, and I've said this before, that I think Sam Altman has proved to be a very shrewd businessman when it comes to making these deals. He's been amazing, making all these kind of. They have faced challenges, right? I mean, there was a time when they had huge attrition. A lot of key people have left, and it looked like that they were basically going to go behind. But then, if you look, I think all these deals and everything that they have been doing is incredible. OpenAI is not losing anytime soon. I mean, it's just amazing. All the work that they're doing. Like, this is really what the business, right, execution looks like, honestly.
Yep. Yeah, they're operating well. That's probably a good way of
Yeah.
saying it off the board. So speaking about OpenAI, one of the other things in the news was something that Sam Altman actually put out just what was it, a couple days ago, in that OpenAI would be releasing updates to ChatGPT that loosens the, I'm going to call it the grip or the restrictions around adult content. So it's going to come out in waves. Part of it is also uh, putting more stringent rules around what teenagers can do with ChatGPT. But part of that then, and this will be coming out, as I said, over the next couple of weeks into December or towards the tail end of this year, which is reducing the restrictions on adult content. So part of that, this goes deeper. It's a little bit deeper than just, hey, there's going to be adult content into the model. Sam actually had put out there a notion of we're going to let adults be adults, and what that really means is to have conversations with the model as long as you're verified as an adult. I don't know what that verification is going to be just yet, but let's assume it's something that you have to go through a couple of different hurdles to say yes, you're over 18 or whatever the age limit that they're going to put on this. So it'll enable you to start having, I'm going to say those conversations maybe where there wasn't less guardrails in the 4.0 type models. We all know that there was more stringent rules that were placed with the GPT-5 model. That was that whole backlash, by the way, with, oh my God, you took my 4.0 model away. Part of that was based upon these new rules that were focused on 5. So now they're going to loosen some of that. So that's interesting in and of itself. But Sam also said that you'll be able to interact more from an erotic standpoint as well, as long as you're verified adults. Obviously, this is where the news picked up and they ran with it. There were a bunch of different articles out there, and unless you hadn't seen or were on vacation for the last week, you probably ran into one of those. I draw some parallels. Again, I do subscribe to a bunch of different LLM models, chat apps. So you could see that on one angle, OpenAI is very strict, and then you've got the other side, which is XAI, and their model with Grok. And we all know the standing feud between Elon Musk and Altman. Those models are on way different ends. If you ever used the Grok, you know that they've got different personalities, and those personalities can be somewhat salty and spicy. So to me, this is where OpenAI is saying, all right, we don't have to be as wrapped up into all the strictness as long as there's verified adults and you can verify your age. We're going to bring it maybe a little bit more in the middle. I doubt, and certainly I'm going to look to see what you can do once this model or once they loosen the reins a little bit on the ChatGPT environment. Like, how far does that actually go? Does it go as far as what Grok will allow you to do? Don't know. Are they going to? The one thing that I did not hear, and maybe I got to go back and look at some of the transcripts, but he mentioned ChatGPT itself, but I didn't see anything mentioned about things like Sora or Image-1. So will they be relaxing some of those things to create different types of content? I don't think so, and I hadn't seen that anywhere. But this is to me, it's a mark where OpenAI is trying to be somewhat more towards the middle, I think, for broadening what its base is and what you can do with that model. Again, I go back to let adults be adults, and we could all manage yourself. And one last thing, and this is supposed to be a rapid news item, but the restrictions that they placed were really around mental health. They did not want people who were maybe not stable to use ChatGPT in a way that might steer them or go in a different direction. So they still have that concern, but it's about this verification process as well. So anyway, that's some news on the spicier side of OpenAI and ChatGPT coming to a computer near you in the next couple of months.
Oh, Jimmy, I picked on what you said that you're going to try it out. So-
Yeah, we might not want to give the results here in the podcast, but I'll definitely give you my thoughts after using it.
and you also want the models, the image models, and Sora also to be compliant with that.
Yeah, a
That's
boy can have his wish list, right?
pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that would be entirely new world. Anyway, in another news, a quick rapid fire ones. Thinking Machines Lab co-founder Andrew Tullock, he departs to join Meta's team. This is, I think, one of the first high-profile departure because Thinking Machines, founded by Mira Murati, she has been vocal about how Meta tried to poach their talent, but they were not successful. Not a single person joined. They, in fact, Meta had actually tried to acquire the lab itself, and which they did not succeed, of course. Um, so this is one of the first high profile exit. Anyway, another quick news: Wikipedia says traffic is falling due to AI search summaries and social videos. This is not surprising because yes, I mean you often went to Wikipedia to get those summaries if you did not like the links, but now with the AI overviews, and using ChatGPT, no wonder that is on the decline.
Yep. So let's get into some news about Google. I'm pausing there because I'm thinking about the way that I've seen my use of search engines change, um, and I'm going to draw this also into a different parallel. Sorry, I'm going to take us off on a slight tangent, but my search model has definitely changed. When I say model, it's not what I'm using, but the way that I'm doing things. So I'm actually leveraging these different tools to do my search. And when we look at what we just mentioned, like the search summaries, says that traffic is actually slowing because of these new modalities. Definitely agree with that. I think also the way that we search and use things will change as a medium. I don't know if how many people are actually Prime subscribers, and if you watch football. Last week when I was watching football on Prime, during the commercials, they actually had the ability to purchase things directly through your TV to go into your Amazon cart. So while it's not searched directly, it's things that it's bringing up content where maybe now I wouldn't, if I saw a commercial, maybe I would have searched it. It's now bringing that capability directly into like that last mile of the consumer connection from your home. So to me, it's all these different pieces that are coming together that are changing the way we search, whether or not it's AI and leveraging things like Chat GPT to go by, or some other mediums like the TV. So anyway, that was my short little tangent. Let's talk about Google. So Google released Veo 3.1 and also made some changes to their Flow, which is their video editor. So the bottom line with the 3.1 release of Veo is it's all about enhanced realism. They also bring in richer audio as well as adhering to your prompts, which is super important as you're creating, these videos, whether it's text or text to video or image to video. Adhering to your prompt is super important, because if you say, hey, I want to see a moving car move into jumping over a bridge, but it jumps over a ship, that's something you didn't want. So it's about that strong prompt adherence. So this is another evolution in Google's overall model. So I have used it. We won't get into it now. The Veo 3.1 model, you can go directly obviously to Gemini and using it through their tools. But there's third parties as well that they're making Veo 3.1 available. So I did get to use it during those pieces. And I will tell you this, the audio is like spot on. And again, you prompt it where you want the audio in. So what I had seen from other models and even Grok as an example, where you can do their image or imagine piece, the audio there is still either a little wonky or it doesn't come in at the right time. The audio on the Gemini one or the Veo model, spot on, and it actually matched to the type of scene and the things that we're looking to do. So this also speaks to that enhanced realism, because it now immerses the things that you can build and do inside that model, and then again aligning to your prompt and the things that it's building. Quite interesting. I actually took, and here's the example that I was using. I have a picture of me and my wife at it was actually at a wedding, and we were standing and posing in front of this ballroom, and I used Veo 3 to say, like, have the couple dance. Like, we weren't dancing in this picture, but it made it come alive to actually do a dance, a little twirl, and then me saying, hey, this looks like a great venue. It was spot on, exactly where it needed to go, nailing the realism of me and my wife. So it was mind blowing. And like I said, I've tried that across different models as well. So I could do the comparison directly. So that being said, there's also other creative controls. You can now add reference image guidance and what they call ingredients into this. The clips are also longer, so you can do this for clip extensions. So there's a lot of additional pieces that come into this as you start to build a quote unquote a video. Again, remember that all of these different video generation models, whether or not it's Sora, Veo, or Grok Imagine, or even WAN models, they're relatively short. And I think Sora right now is the most at 20 seconds. Although I did see something where you can even go a little bit longer with Sora 2 Pro, but they're still relatively short. So being able to actually have an environment where you can stitch, kind of storyboard, put these things together are important, which is where Flow comes in. So these are where these editing tools to define what you want and what you need come super important. So there are a couple of different things, as I said, audio integration. So you can define ingredients. These are like certain reference images that could be used. So not only do you have starting and ending images, but you have these ingredients. I kind of think of it as like a cook sprinkling in some things. This actually helps the Veo 3.1 model to understand like the environment or shape characters that are in it. So that's important. Frames to video, as I mentioned, this is where I can bridge two different frames together to create like a cinematic transition within the model, and then the ability to extend to do a continuous shot from the existing clip. So all these things just make the model so much easier to use. What is coming, which is not out there yet, so I don't know if this is going to be like 3.2 or something, but the ability to remove objects from a video or that scene. So again, this would be integrated directly into Flow, which will allow for intelligently reconstructing what's in the background. So again, another great capability. As I mentioned, this is right now, if you're in Google, the 3.1 Veo model is within the Gemini API, Vertex AI, or the Gemini app. I will say this, you do need a paid subscription to it to do it. I do have a free Google account, which I was using. I was trying to actually generate a 3.1 image there, and it wouldn't let me do it because I don't have a paid account, but I have paid accounts elsewhere that do include the Veo 3.1 model. So that's where I got to use it. So bottom line, pretty cool. And just what we've seen over the last, really what's been like 3 weeks, we've had pretty impressive upgrades to different models. Like I just mentioned, Sora 2, WAN 2.5, Veo 3.1. So these are all new models that are really pushing the edge. And by the way, those models have sound built into it, which is kind of cool as well. Anyway, you can tell I'm excited about this. It's a pretty cool field, and I think it will change the way that not only from the fun side, what people can do, but as we were just talking, the ability to build commercials or movies. I think this is really the start of a bigger push for what can be done within the media broadcast media development side.
Yeah, exciting, and no wonder it's threatening. Now that I also work in that industry, Jimmy, I
Yeah,
can speak for that.
yeah.
Um,
One last thing, I forgot to bring this up, but this is what it looks like. So here's the Veo Studio. So a graphical interface. You can see some of the things that I put in here. Yes, this is actually my dog. I was going to say, like, create a a transition video from a puppy to a adult dog, and here you can see changing the landscape, changing the uh, the pitch, and then what type of model. And I didn't put it in here, but I could have made them like talk at the same time. So, and then on the left hand side is the code. So very simple to use. This is a small little Python example of being able to call the model, the Veo 3.1 model, to create a video. So it's not complicated or hard to actually implement. Whether or not I'm just doing it as once off within the Veo Studio, or literally just creating code as as part of my application. So anyway,
awesome. So much going on in this, the image world, actually. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit further, Jamie. Something from Microsoft as well. Microsoft has launched MAI-Image-1, MAI-Image-1 as the model for the text to image generation. Now, of course, it is far behind anything like it doesn't generate the videos, etc. But this is a good attempt from Microsoft to get into this image models as well. Remember that MAI already has also Microsoft AI. That's what it stands for, MAI. They've already launched MAI Preview before, and MAI Voice one as well, which generates the voice. And this is an model which actually generates the image with the text prompt. So it's the third in-house AI model, and it basically is, I would say, a decent start. It ranked ninth on the LM Arena leaderboard, where people can actually play with it and then can vote different models. It has the approach that Microsoft has taken in developing this is basically providing the photorealistic results. So the data that they have used to build this model is curated well. They have avoided repetitive and generic kind of style. So as per them, they have used a highly curated data set to build these models, and they feel that this model is actually fast. So, using this model, essentially they're positioning it as, okay, use this model to do your, for example, conceptualization, your prototyping quickly. You do it very fast rather than having to wait, because image generation can take some time. Okay, many different models. In fact, you try that in chat gpt, it takes a little bit time, like you have to wait for maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds sometimes. But this one actually does it extremely fast. So right now, the way they're positioning this, okay, conceptualize, prototype with this fast model, and then you can take the output and use the other models to fine tune it. Essentially, that's how it is. And you can see the some of the, um, the, I would say, the output from this model on the slide here, where basically, a couple of images that they have actually shared, and they look pretty good actually. Those images look pretty good in terms of the output, and I would say that, you know it looks very promising. We'll have to wait and see, because this will actually roll out to the Copilot and the Bing image creator soon. So that's where people will be able to test it out. Right now, it's only available through the LM Arena, so it's in the prelim result. So
I'll be looking to get my hands on that to see how well it compares against, in my opinion, probably the best one out there right now, which is Nano Banana from Google. So testing beware. Maybe that might be a future episode where we put these models head to head on a prompt and see what they can generate. I'm
yeah,
thinking in the back of my head that's probably a good thing to do. Maybe we do the same thing on the video generation as well.
yeah,
Since
and,
they're in.
and by the way, Jimmy, on that the comparison to Nano Banana. I mean, of course, Nano Banana is basically number one on the LM Arena. But
Yeah.
and if you go to the LM Arena, you will also find that Nano Banana is number one. But there's another model which has just debuted there, okay, which is Hunyuan. Okay, and this model is actually from Tencent, and right now it is sitting at the top. It is also prelim model. Prelim model means it has not been fully launched to the public. It is in a very limited preview right now, so it's not fully available everywhere, but it has also started at the number one. This is from Tencent, the company, Chinese company that is a conglomerate, and they have like their own bunch of video games, and bunch of companies, the WeChat and Cloud and everything else.
Yeah.
So this ladder is actually always changing. I mean, Google is GPT are ruling, but I think of late, the Seed Dream model that we talked about a few episodes ago, earlier, which is from TikTok, that's
Mhm.
still holding well in the top 10. Google Images, Google models are holding very well, and then also the GPT image. These are the ones that are mostly in the top 10.
Yeah, you know what's it just it made me think when you said about Tencent and the models out of there. There's a lot of really good models coming out of China. Obviously, there's fear and or is there going to be data privacy issues? Yeah, for sure if you're using the models from them directly. But whether or not it's a model for image generation, video generation, or just a typical LM model for chat, there's some really good models. It might not be a bad idea if there's enough audience interest to just kind of do a run through of what's out there from the Chinese group
Mm,
and what they're putting out. I mean, because like I mentioned, you've got you mentioned Tencent. There's the offshoots of Alibaba and WAN. There's the Quen model. So there's just so much out there that I don't think people really realize what they're because you can use them if you're doing it as you're running the models yourselves. So anyway, just a thought off the top of my head. Probably a good segue to talk about another new model that's out there, and this one's more in the coding aspect of it. And we talked about who are the leaders in video and image generation. Well, to me, a clear winner in code generation is Anthropic with their Claude model. So what was just released is Claude Haiku 4.5. So what this actually brings to the table is a really, and I'm going to summarize it this way, a really good coding model that is cheap and it's fast. Bottom line, that's what it's all about. So what they've been claiming, and I have yet to use it. I'm kind of itching to in the coding environment. I could switch to different models to use, but they're touting a 4 to 5x speed improvement over the previous model, and it matches 90% of what Sonnet 4.5 coding capabilities are. And if you think about like who are the leaders today, the leader actually is Sonnet 4.5 in coding. So if you've got a model that's pretty darn close to Sonnet 4.5, but is 5 times faster, oh, and by the way, it's cheaper to run, this becomes a very efficient tool to use within not only your coding aspect, but when you think about building agentic solutions or agents need to run on an LLM. This is like hitting a sweet spot because if you create an orchestrator that is using, let's say, a more deep reasoning model, maybe you're using the Sonnet 4.5 for that, or maybe even ChatGPT 5 as an example, GPT 5 Pro, but then use the Haiku model for those sub tasks. That's very efficient. So, and as I said, from cost efficiency, it's $1 for every million input and $5 for every million output tokens. So it's ideal for using this in real time applications for building things like chat assistants, customer service tools, and just your pair programmer, if you will. So one of the advanced cases, as I kind of alluded to, is using this to support your multi-agent orchestration. So the idea again, whatever you want to use as that brain and that orchestrator, like using something like 4.5 Sonnet, and then parse that down to Haiku for using those individual agents that are being called, and you do that in parallel. So very, very important. So with that in mind, let me just flash up some things as far as the bench scores. So this is actually take this one. This is the SWE bench. It's the software engineering bench. What is important here to note is, yeah, Sonnet 4.5 is still the leader, but when you look at this comparison, Haiku is better than GPT-5 at doing software engineering. Let me say that again. Their low-cost model, Haiku 4.5, is better than GPT-5 at coding exercises. And it's better than Sonnet 4. Codex, which is the model from OpenAI that's tuned for doing coding, it's better at Haiku, but it's still a hell of a lot cheaper than what Codex is. And if you do notice from here again, Sonnet 4.5 is better than Codex. So this is why I say the Sonnet 4.5 and Haiku wrapped together is a really good set of models to use for not only pure straight coding purposes, but using it in conjunction for building a multi-agentic system or application. You notice how far off, by the way, Gemini 2.5 Pro is from this model mix. Be interesting to see what happens when the 3.0 model from Gemini is out there. So that's one piece of it. As I mentioned, this is sort of just looking at everything across the board. It's about what the components and how this aligns with 4.5 into the other areas. So, when we look at just the pure number of it and its ability to do agentic coding, we just talked about that. But we look at tool use. So again, being able to use agent tools, it's got pretty high marks across the board with other models. Again, even beating out GPT-5. The ability to do computer use, again, pretty high on its. Now, obviously, they based all of these on the Claude models when they were doing that. Ability to do math reasoning, again, fairly high. 96%. Yes, it's a little bit lower than GPT-5 and Claude. But fairly good numbers across the board as it relates to a model that is smallest model within the Claude family. So again, it's Anthropic really doing what they do well, and focusing in on that developer aspect and being able to bring models now that align more with our agent building or agent world.
Great progress when it comes to these models. It's amazing speed at which they are developing these capabilities as fast.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about another new launch actually that came out from Salesforce world. At they had their Dreamforce event, and Salesforce announced Agentforce 360 as their enterprise AI, the workbench. Basically, they've launched it as, they already had the Agentforce, but this is kind of a rebranding, you can say. It's all new Agentforce 360, and a bunch of new enhancement that they launched with it. So let's talk about that. First of all, they had something called Agentforce Builder. This is kind of all new Agentforce Builder. It basically is a single place where you can draft, test, and deploy the agents. And it essentially, it most of the time it would be like a low code kind of a work that you can do there, like a autocomplete, low code canvas, etc. um, and it's basically refreshed experience. So that's one part. It doesn't cost anything. It is included in the purchase of the agent force. So the builder comes along with it. And the AI assistance inside the builder is also included, and there's no separate cost to use it within the builder. Um, the other thing that they also talked about is agent script. So agent script is basically a new way to control the agent force. So what they're talking about is that generally what happens is that, when you're building these agents, you can use a natural language, you can use the flexible LLM reasoning to do things, but the business agents actually require sometime a fixed sequence, and or rather a workflow, right? So using this agent script, you can actually define the conditions and the loops and the transition. You can set and compare variables. You can define if and if then what happens, right? That kind of logic. So that business logic requires certain sequence and a flow. You can build that, and then on the top of that, you are also augmenting that with the LLM's flexibility of and the reasoning. So it basically, in their words, it basically gives enterprises hybrid reasoning agents that are both precise and adaptable, and the business logic, it can run in sequence, and the reasoning can make sure that it can handle the nuances, ensuring predictable outcomes. So that's another part. The other thing is that they launched something called Agent Force Voice. Agent Force Voice is basically AI powered voice capabilities to all the channels. You bring the conversational abilities to this. And the final thing is that this something called intelligent context. Intelligent context is basically it extracts and structures information from complex, unstructured sources. Imagine a PDF which has like it's an infographic PDF, bunch of things. Some metrics and some descriptions. When you extract the insight from it, the information can be jumbled up. And that's where, when you interact with that kind of unstructured sources, sometimes the LLMs are not going to give you the right answer because the information gets jumbled when you extract this from a highly unstructured source and a complex, which has tables and charts and metrics and all kind of thing, right? Um, this intelligent context actually helps you extract that information in much better sense, and then that can be fed into the agents to give you much more reliable insights. So that's what the intelligent context is. It improves your accuracy with the unstructured complex documents. And there are a bunch of other announcements about the integration between Agent Force and Slack, and you can use some pre-built agents also within the Agent Force, and you can integrate that with the Slack, etc. So, in other words, Agent Force is like a entire platform. Builder is like a Copilot studio, I would say, if drawing comparison with Microsoft Word, and Slack is of course like Teams. So that's how people can relate to it. But that was the announcement that came out of Salesforce. Um,
Got it. Yeah, and I see this space. I mean, obviously, we probably see all the commercials all the time from Agent Force that are out there, but they are building a very solid platform for those customers that are using Salesforce or Agent Force. These are great tools that round out the ability to quote unquote build agents and using the Agent Force builder and how that actually aligns with the rest of their data and the structures that are in it.
yeah. Okay. And in the end, I just want to actually talk about one quick trivia, Jamie. U.S. GDP growth in the first half of 2025 was almost entirely driven by the investments in the data centers and the information processing technology. This is according to Harvard economist Jason Furman. And what it's done is basically, if you remove these technology related categories, Furman, he calculated and he posted it on the X.com that the GDP growth would have been just 0.1% on an annualized basis. So almost a standstill, if not for this data center growth. So in August, there was another study, Renaissance Macro Research. They estimated that to date in 2025, the dollar value contributed to GDP growth by AI data center build out had surpassed US consumer spending for the first time ever. And the US consumer spending is actually a big part of the GDP, right? So basically, consumer spending is two-thirds of the GDP. But the AI data center is finally showing up in the economy. And all these billions of dollars of investment that we have been hearing about, that's where it is actually showing up. So, what technically Furman is saying is that the investment in these equipment and software was only 4% of US GDP. right? It's not that it's like majority part of it. It's only 4%. All this data center and investment that is going on in the first half of 2025, but it is what is basically giving that 92% of the growth that happened in that period, right? Because this is an additional, so just to reconcile these numbers, this 4% of the GDP spend is what basically gave that 92% of the GDP growth in that period.
Yeah. So
And um,
as I say, it's a big chunk of it, bottom
it,
line. So yeah, if you take
exactly,
that out, yeah.
exactly. I mean, like, and of course, going forward will become a baseline, but um, the good news is that it is showing up in the growth, and it is keeping the economy going essentially.
Hmm. Yeah, that's like you said, if you take that out, where would we be? We would not be where we are today. So, I mean, I'm glad it's there, but it's also a little fearful if something happens and slows down or stops, whether it's economy, governmental, alignment issues, that will have a huge negative impact on, on the economy.
True, true. I think the dependency is building out in terms of the AI, and of course, I mean this is where a lot of spend is going, investments are going. So it is becoming integral part of the economy.
Yep.
With that,
Cool.
I think we are ready to wrap this episode, Jamie, and everybody have a good rest of the weekend.
Sounds good. Or whenever you're listening to this. See ya.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.